The Ozark Mountains have always been rugged and mysterious. There are still new places to explore. Here in northwest Arkansas, there's an enigma. Blue Spring is dressed with botanical gardens. 38 million gallons of pure water rush from the spring every day. There's a Native American history and reverence for the place that stretches back at least 10,000 years. Hidden below the spring pool is a mystery. An underwater cave system that has never been seen by human eyes. Now, 3 bold adventurers have undertaken an expedition to discover what lies below the surface. The diving will be deep, dangerous, and complicated. They'll find a claustrophobic system that requires special equipment and techniques. They'll challenge cave diving's conventional wisdom. It will test their skills and courage. New discoveries will be made and histories revealed. It's an adventure 300 million years in the making. It will be, simply, one of the most ambitious underwater cave explorations ever. Join us as we dive Blue Spring and go into the unknown. Blue Spring is just a few miles west of the resort city of Eureka Springs. The community's fame is due in part to over 60 natural springs scattered throughout the town.
The geology in this area has contributed to the existence of the numerous springs. There are 62 springs that I'm aware of. Most of them have fairly small drainage basins by the fact that they're not very large. They're not nearly as large as Blue Spring is, for example. Then we're talking about thousands of gallons a minute that are coming from that spring, and none of the springs in Eureka Springs are nearly that large.
The spring is operated by Janice Cross.
Well, the main purpose of the spring, this was a community before Eureka Springs was ever founded in the 1870s. So there were several mills here, at least 2 that we know of, maybe a third. The property, the 33 acres, which is considered the heritage center of the property, is what's open to the public, and you start out by going through the Trading Post gift shop. When you come out, you see a historical film in our visitor center, and you get a map that will guide you along all the pathways and trails along the property. You walk down the steps, there's a gazebo where you can feed our trout. The bluff shelter, which is on the National Register, is to your right, and the dam, and where the 2 old mills used to be. Of course, then, you've got the spring, which flows 38 million gallons of water a day. And we have a medicine wheel garden and a teepee. We have grounds where we have gourd dancing. Well, it was thought to be 510 feet deep, and I guess the first opening was thought to be about 25 feet. But that's what has always been published about the spring. The water, everybody thought, came from the Pacific Northwest somewhere, and of course we still need to determine if that's true or not. We know it comes from somewhere different than, say, Roaring River, because that has been analyzed, but that's all we know at this point.
It will take a special group to face the unknowns of Blue Spring. Cave diving is one of the most dangerous of all activities.
It takes a lot of training well beyond the open water diving level. You also have to have the proper equipment so that you have the redundancy. Another thing is in a cave you don't have the ability to go straight to the surface. So you need experience in other cave systems dealing with problems and knowing that you can handle them before you're faced with that in an unknown situation. It also helps if you have good dive buddies.
Mike Young, Kendall Hopkins, and Mike Wright became a team diving the caves of Missouri and Florida.
We've been diving together for so long that we pretty much know what the other person is thinking, and that's a very good thing when you're a mile back in a cave.
We had done a lot of diving in caves that had already been explored, but we wanted to go somewhere that no one has ever been.
So we formed ACX, that stands for Aquatic Cave Exploration. There wasn't really a good reason for the X for exploration other than on the logo we could turn the X into a little diver, and so it looked really good.
The team spends years honing their cave diving skills and gaining experience.
There's always a possibility of getting lost, and with the limited air supply, we lay lines or run a line in order to make sure we get back out.
Me and Kendall both came down here one afternoon and we saw the spring, and we were just both in awe, and we went back and told Mike about it.
And so then we contacted John East and asked for permission to explore the spring, and I think she was just as excited as we were.
Actually, I had been approached by 2 other sets of divers before you all came along, and so the thought process was already in place as far as letting somebody dive. And you guys seemed very qualified, and of course you were going to do the documentary instead of just taking pictures and things like that, so I thought it was a much better fit.
Well, whenever you start a new project, you gather what information you can, which generally would be very limited because people are only guessing at what's below the surface here, and they had said that this had been tested at some point, and that it had a 10-foot diameter hole at the bottom of the spring pool here that went down 500 feet, you know, and that they had used, you know, a heavy weight and a rope to determine this, and so you can pretty much guarantee that that's not going to be true, just because that's the going story. So, but we were prepared for that.
If the rumors are true, it will take a lot of equipment.
You have to be really careful setting up your gear. You do a lot of checks, a lot of rechecks, in order to eliminate the possibility of problems.
I was the first one to jump in the spring. Let me tell you, the water was just clear, breathtaking. I just couldn't wait to get started.
Typically we'll do a safety check on the surface before we do a dive, and that's to check that everything is okay before the dive starts. After that, I swam off to the side to attach a safety line. That's to make sure that everybody was able to get out.
The entry fissure lies at 35 feet and is much smaller than they had hoped.
On our first dive in, we went in with conventional, you know, cave diving equipment, which are very large steel tanks on our back. When we got down to the crack, and the crack is, you know, 12 to 18 inches wide. Well, that's pretty much the size of our tanks, let alone our bodies, you know. And we were really disappointed at the first dive when we were not able to make entry into the spring itself because the crack is so small. But it also presented challenges that most cave divers don't face.
The team will need a new approach and some luck to unlock the mysteries of Blue Spring.